Hey guys, welcome to the regular. You can see we've got a little bit different change of location, making some adjustments, and also you're not going to see Brecklin today. I'm sorry to disappoint you. It's disappointing for us as well. But I am really excited to talk with Chris. This is Chris Lamb, been a part of Risen King for quite a while now. You know, quite a while in our terms is, less than 3 years. So if you've been here for 3 years, you're basically a vet. And, of course, there's folks that have been here longer, but really excited for this conversation. This last Sunday, we were talking about the fear of the Lord and the verses in Proverbs that it addresses that. And which I think is a complicated topic. I think the statement in itself, people have a lot of assumptions of what they think that means. And so excited to jump in a little bit more today for our home groups. And for those that maybe you're not watching in a home group, you just watch it on your own, which is great too. And excited to jump in. But, first, Chris, I don't think we need to necessarily give you an intro. People, for the most part, probably know who you are at Risen King. But love to just hear one thought, like, hey, this jumped out from Sunday. Like, this is something that you thought, man, I'd love to expound on, or spoke to you, or, what's something that has been going around in your mind on this topic that might be fun to unpack?
Well, I think that one thought is hard. There was several, but one of them that I thought about when we watched the video clip. What was his name?
Shia LaBeouf.
I don't know how to pronounce it.
It's so hard because whenever people say it, I always feel like they're going Shia LaBeouf. It's just tough. Shia LaBeouf.
Yeah, which I've seen him in movies. He's a great actor, and I'd heard what had happened, but that clip, there was a couple thoughts I had. The first thought I had was I was convicted, just with, I don't struggle with the idea of the fear of the Lord. I, going back to being in recovery for 22 years, when I got sober, I had a really radical encounter with unconditional love. And, and AA is this world where they really try to help you approach God as a loving father and kind of strip religion out of it. And a lot of the church gets uncomfortable with that, but it's actually really helpful for people, because a lot of people that struggle with the fear of the Lord, it's more of a, like, God's out to get me. Like, he's up there with these levers he's pulling and a hammer.
Yes.
And that's not what it means. And that's not the nature of who God is. And so, but so many people unconsciously, I think, still struggle with that. So that was definitely the conviction for me in the video, was the humility and then also just exposure of bad beliefs. Here's this guy who's definitely living his life in a way where he's harming himself, harming others.
Yeah.
And yet when he's asked a question like what he would do when he would see Jesus, and the way that he responded to it, I mean, it was exposing to me of how I still have really bad beliefs about the relationship that I have with God and how loving he is. And I'm constantly reminded that if I don't really think about how good he is.
Yeah.
And so the second thought I had was just being in recovery is like seeing him in that condition, really rough, and reminds me of a lot of the people that I would see in AA meetings and jails, institutions and stuff like that. And just that, man, if we're not broken and living our life vulnerable, which is the safest place to be, and you're doing really well, and you're in the church and like everything's going great, and you're not being inauthentic, then like for me, it was a reminder that I need to go find guys like that and spend more time with them.
Yeah.
Because that's been one of the greatest tools that I got out of being in recovery is you get sober and they tell you, now go help others. And really it's the message of Jesus. It's simplified in AA is like, you get healed from brokenness. Now, if you want to hang on to your healing and continue to heal, you go heal others. And so it was, for me, a reminder, like, I need to get back to hanging out with guys who are in places like him, because and we all should. And that was the thought I had, is like, if you're doing really well in church and you're being authentic, but you don't have addictions and you don't have brokenness and you're not currently struggling in your marriage, you're not hiding things, which is probably not true for a lot of people. But if that's your case, then that's great. But maybe you should be going out and helping those people.
Yeah.
And
Don't be stagnant.
don't be stingy with how
Yeah.
good your life is. Like, go help others.
Yeah,
And
that's good.
so for me, that was a thought that I had, and I literally texted someone to try to get back on rotation, and actually talked to someone outside of church about talking to you about, getting a pass to start going to juvenile hall again. So that's how I took it. Was
That's awesome.
A lot of conviction.
Well, and I think when I watched that, I probably watched that clip 100 times. He has another clip on prayer that is, I think, really beautiful. His clip on prayer has, I don't know, 10 F-bombs in it. I'm not sure. I didn't have quite the courage to play the prayer clip.
I'll have to find that clip
on a Sunday morning. It's really powerful when he tells this guy that's interviewing him, hey, here's how you pray. And here's what you do. And one of the profound moments of this prayer clip is he goes, and you actually have to stop talking and listen. And he goes, the first thing you're going to hear is your own voice. And it's going to go on and on about this and that and that and this and all these things that you're stressed out about. Quiet and ignore that voice till you hear his. And then he goes, you're going to know it's his because it's going to be loving. I mean, it's really powerful.
Yeah.
And when I watched that clip where he was asked what you do with Jesus, I don't know that I've seen a better 29-second picture of the fear of the Lord, where it wasn't terror, it was awe, it was humility, it was wonder, it was joy. When he sat there and began to cry about the idea that he would just kiss his feet, that was out of, my life is so messed up. If I could just sit at his feet, I'd be happy, content, and I'd have everything I need.
Yeah.
Like, it was a beautiful picture. And then the thing, I think similar to where you're at with it, Chris, is I go, why aren't our churches full of people like where he's at? And like, what is, like the church, Jesus said, I didn't come for the healthy, I came for the sick. And yet, now I want to say, when I say where he's at, I'm not talking about his lifestyle. I think our churches have plenty of people that are living in brokenness and chaos and sin and all that. Sure. Why do our churches not have the vulnerability that he has? He's so willing to he's on a podcast and he's just like, I mean, many of us as Christians end up being one-on-one and we're unwilling to bare our soul the way he did in front of millions. And there's something so beautiful. I remember my initial thought when I watched that clip is I go, my out loud thinking is, he may be more of a Christian than almost anybody I know. And I am around Christians all the time because there's this raw vulnerability that I think is required for real faith. And then I just go, hey, how do we as a church take a page from his book and get real and get vulnerable? As somebody who's lived in both worlds, where you've lived as an alcoholic, you're sober, you've lived in the church world, you've lived in a very broken world. What is it that causes us to freeze up rather than being that level of open before God and before people?
I think it's the fear of man, and I think it's pride, and I think it's we don't actually have an intimate relationship and union with God. I was talking to a gal yesterday who was a leader in our area, and she was talking about how she struggles being vulnerable with people because she feels like they'll have something on her, the risk of rejection, all the things. And I told her that anytime that I feel the fear of telling you what I'm doing when nobody's looking, which I do have fear about that. I think we always will.
Yeah, sure.
But it's always for me exposing where I'm at spiritually. Mm-hmm. Because when I'm close to Jesus and I'm spending a lot of time with him and I'm being reminded who I am in him and that I'm enough, I don't fear what you think of me. Yeah. And I told her, I said, what's crazy about that statement you made is the antithesis of that statement is actually true. When you are vulnerable with people and you tell them and you let them see the real you, they actually have nothing on you because you have nothing to hide, nothing to prove, and nothing to lose.
Great.
But you can't get to I personally cannot get in that place and stay in that place unless I'm actually having, like, I have a real living day by day, moment by moment relationship with Jesus, and I'm constantly talking to him and being honest with him, and that part of my life has always ebbed and flowed, and that's probably true for all of us, right? Agree. And so, but there are times, because I've been in recovery long enough, and recovery starts out with, I'm a failure.
Yep.
Like, you start from that, so
you're starting from a place of brokenness.
You're starting from a place of, I'm a failure and I'm powerless and I don't have control, right? And then I'm going to depend on God. And then let's go through this inventory and, like, literally write down every single thing you've done to harm others. And even the things you thought, well, people harmed you. We're not even going to look at that. We're going to find where you had a part in it.
Yep.
And so you
that part's tough.
You learn that you can't be a victim anymore, and that to have grace, and you truly learn to forgive people because you start to understand and discern why people hurt others, and then you go out and make things right with everybody, and because your life depends on it, and that just creates this lifestyle that I believe is actually the Christian lifestyle that is not as often lived or taught, where you're constantly taking your own inventory. You're rarely judging others. And if you do, you usually turn it right back on yourself and realize it's because something in you is reflecting. And you just know that, like, if you get too far away from being connected to God, connected to men that know what's going on and who you are when no one's looking, that you're going to go back to addictive tendencies. And what I've learned being in business and coaching business people is this isn't actually isolated to alcoholics.
Yeah, 100%.
The gift to alcoholics is we drank too much and did drugs that put us in a place we're going to lose our life, so we had to do something about it. But that's actually turned out to be the gift, because it kind of forced us into this lifestyle that we probably wouldn't have chose without a ton of pain and suffering. So,
or other things are easier to justify, easier to write off. And so
especially when everyone else is living the same way.
Right.
We're in a culture of fakeness, of hiding, of disconnection. And honestly, that's why a lot of alcoholics who love Jesus don't like going to church.
Yeah.
They do. And there are some great churches, awesome churches. I believe that there's amazing churches in our area. It's rare for that. But, a lot of people, like in AA, they'll say statements like, what do they say? They say something, religion is to save your soul, spirituality will save your ass, and stuff like that. And that's not actually true, and AA doesn't say that, but there's something about those environments, like that video I shared with you, that just people connect with God and feel so they belong, and they're safe, and they see the value in living.
Talk about that video. I was going to actually ask you about that next. So in our home group, we're in the same home group together. Chris, after the service on Sunday, had shared a video in the home group chat, kind of taking the conversation a bit further. Really thought-provoking. I'd love for you to speak to that, and then we'll wrap up here, because I think there's some really profound truths in that. And I think we're in, like, as a church at Risen King, I think we're still very much forming, right? Like, we've said that from the very beginning 2.5 years ago. Like, we're years from being who we are culturally. Like, we're almost, some of it is we're figuring that out. Some of it is we know, and we're building towards that, but we're not there yet. But I think that these are really good dialogues to go, because I think myself, Caitlin, our team, I think those that are coming to Risen King, like, we want to be a church for basement dwellers, as that video. How do we do that? And I think it'd be great for you just to kind of just speak to that video a second, explain that.
Yeah, well, it was a video of a pastor, and he was talking about how there's AA meetings in the basements of churches, and the church is always saying, how do we get those people to come up here
to the second floor?
To the second floor. And the reality is, like, if you want to if you want to hear religion, stay up here. If you want to see miracles, go down there.
Yeah.
And it's funny because I actually had an experience like that 15 years ago. I was at a church that was probably 100 people, a beautiful church. It was awesome. And we created an AA meeting, and we used the building next door, and it got up to like 120 people on a Friday night.
Wow.
And people were laughing and having fun. It was kind of part of their date night before they go out to dinner. And I had a really close friend of mine ask me, he said, man, how do we get some of those people to come to church? And I literally told him, I said, his name is Eric. I said, Eric, we actually should be asking, how do we get people from the church to come in there?
Yeah.
Because of the same exact thing that this guy said in the video. And I just think that we're talking about the same thing. It's people struggle living a life of vulnerability, and it's for the reasons that we're talking about. And I think that it starts, and I don't know how to solve that, honestly. I mean, I feel like some of the stuff going on right now in the church globally and some of the scandals, I see that as part of the solution, is that some of the walls are getting torn down and people are realizing that they should not be putting leaders on pedestals, and they shouldn't be protecting what is unhealthy behavior because of how it could impact the system, which is really ran like a business. And I think that is being torn down, and God's grace will be a part of that. But, you think about those things, like as a leader, like you're a pastor of the church, like if we really love you, then if we see something in your life, then we would want to help you.
Right.
Right. And like, we want leaders to be in a place where they would say, you can look at my bank statements, you can look at my tax returns, and you can look at my phone. And I know that that's the kind of community that I want to be in, because I want to stay married, and I want to stay sober, and I want to live in my purpose. And having a relationship with God is so important, but it turns out that I also need relationship with other men and people that actually know the real me. And that is very hard for a lot of people to do.
It is, man. That's good. I think it's a great way to wrap too. I think that last thought, Chris, is right on. Relationship with God is super important, but so is relationship with each other. He put us together for a reason. So here's a couple questions from this to just throw out to the groups. If you're watching this in a group, in one of the home groups, here's some questions that I'm going to give you a couple questions. You guys can talk together. If you watch this on your own, spend some time processing these. Write these down. Number one, do I know how to practice vulnerability? Practicing vulnerability is a statement that Caitlin and I have coined for years of going, I actually want to practice it. I want to do it all the time. I want to practice it in easy settings, in hard settings. I want to share something I don't want to share. I'm going to force myself to share something I don't want to share so that I can practice getting uncomfortable sharing where my heart is at. And so one question to go around the group and just give yourself a grade. Use words. You can use numbers 1 through 5, or you can just dialogue about it. But how good are you with practicing vulnerability? Is this something that's hard for you? Is it easy for you? And then why or why not? Next question I would encourage you to ask or answer is this, is where am I at with fear of man? Because I think Chris is right on. I think that if we could package the whole conversation up, I would say this: fear of God is actually feeling so safe with him, I'm unscared of other humans. I think that if you could really just take everything we see in Scripture and these pictures, is the fear of the Lord means I know him so well, I feel so safe with him, I'm no longer concerned with humans' response to my hurts, habits, or hangups. And so just be open, be honest tonight. Go, hey, or this afternoon, wherever you're watching this, where am I at with fear of man? Am I close enough with the Lord to be unconcerned with the opinions of others so that I'd be willing to share and be open about it? And then the last one would be this: what is the Holy Spirit telling me to do next? What is the area that I need to grow in or lean into? Maybe it's as simple as I need to set aside 30 minutes a day to be with the Lord because I just got to get close. Because step number 1 is be close, be in his presence. You're not going to hear his voice in the busyness of our life unless we set aside time to be with him and to rest with him. And so encourage you guys in that, man. Chris, thank you. lot of great thoughts. Absolutely love Chris and Heather and their leadership. If you see him on a Sunday, grab him and hug him. Thank him for this podcast. Risen King, we love you guys. We'll see you at Sunday at Easter, 9 and 11.